All the insight and analysis of the Cougars, Utes, and the rest of the conference. Live from Frisco, Texas, this is Big 12 Media Day coverage on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Presented by Omada Real Estate. Buying or selling a home? Trust the experts at Omada Real Estate.
And that's radio for you.
Big 12 Media Days live in Frisco, Texas at the Star. It's all brought to you by Omada Real Estate.
I don't miss management at all.
Not managing PK
I'm
anyway.
just kidding.
I'm telling you that
My
right
gosh.
now. Good heavens. Got a headache.
He just ran roughshod over us, but it did wake me up.
Oh, you guys are so soft, man. You can't take a little argument over sports.
We are soft.
Jeez, it's sports. Who cares?
Like I just know that there's a good time to answer emails and texts, and just when PK is going off, and I'm like, I'm just glad it's not me.
I'm gonna look into it.
I'm gonna get
fun.
PK's calling us soft.
It's okay to mix it up a little.
to try to attack.
It's sports arguments.
One
That's
thing,
all it is.
One thing
it's
I did not
anything important.
I did not anticipate today in the Big 12 Football Media Day was the Jazz pre-half and post getting thrown under the bus.
Our entire
Railroaded.
integrity attacked because PK is losing an argument.
Yeah,
Got to drive everybody down
I don't
with this.
respond in kind. If I lost it. I lost it. Huh?
You were not kind either. That is correct.
I agree. You were not kind.
I agree.
Not in the
Irregardless.
Which was never my intent.
Irregard.
slightest. Now Christian's barking at us to talk football.
You guys talk football.
Can we just at least
PK
say
now
something?
resents Christian because he called him windy once.
Yeah, that's true. He went after him last and said something personal.
He did say something personal. That happened on the show
Well,
yesterday.
Isn't that if you say something personal about me, I'm not allowed to say something personal about you?
Hey, them's the New Jersey rules, man.
I didn't set the rules. I just live by them. I didn't throw the first punch.
He just responds in kind.
Yeah, exactly.
Patrick the agitator.
That's nothing.
If you guys could have heard Majerus in the locker room say, all right, and it just says before you go, there's this guy, he's got the beat, for the Trib, and, he's no good, I mean, he basically put an APB out. The rest of us, like, nobody talked to him. Don't give him any information. So he got to him, too.
Rick was right about a lot of stuff.
He yelled at me one time on the phone, you're just a contrarian. I said, thank you. And one time, a guy who now works for ESPN worked at the LA Times, and Majerus goes up to him at a tournament, and he says, hey, this guy, Kinahan? This is a guy that I've known for 30 years. He's slept in my house in Sandy, and I slept at his house, sleepovers after I left down in California. And Majerus says, this guy, Kinahan, I mispronounces the name, and my buddy, oh no, I have no idea who he is. And then he calls me. He just confronted me on the court. And then when he took the SC job, but he was working the beat at LA Times, right?
When he took it for like 10 days?
Well, yeah. And so my wife and I went out, and we didn't have cell phones back then, right? And I come back, and it's my buddy. And he leaves a message on my machine. You're not going to believe what just happened. Call me back. And I told my wife, I said, Majerus quit the SC job.
You knew it.
Yeah.
That lasted, 24 hours? I remember the press conference. We carried it live.
Yeah. So, that's my rep, eh? It's kind of worked so far. What can I tell you?
We're going to talk to Doug McNamee, athletic director for Baylor, coming up momentarily. We just got word from the magnificent, talented Stone that he's going to be coming over here.
And if I would have said it, that would have been bad. But you guys laughed on
Well,
that.
no, it was funny just
because Lloyd's mad at me.
Lloyd's
for throwing
trying to being a contrarian back there, cause a little rift.
Hey, Lloyd,
between.
Lloyd or PK, don't be soft.
I won't be.
Okay.
I'm soft. Heck, I'm as soft as they come.
Okay, here he comes. Okay, I'm going to abandon stage
No,
left.
you can
No.
do that.
When the adults come, you guys have to talk because I'm better with the young folk. No, I'm just joking. Here we go.
All right, we're going to talk some Baylor sports coming up here in just a moment. In fact, he is going to be sitting down right now. We'll talk about his thoughts on his upcoming football season. He's the athletic director for Baylor. He's Doug McNamee with us here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Doug, thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
Hey, it's good to be with you guys. Thank you.
When you are out of the business for a bit and then decide to jump back in, what's that process like? Because what's current and what was 7 years ago is very, very different.
Yeah, well, I joke. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it out, but neither does anyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a crazy time, and we're all kind of learning on the fly. I think the last 7-8 years being out in the business world, being in an entrepreneurial kind of mindset has lent itself well to some of the experiences we're going through right now. But it definitely, I knew it was going to be interesting and volatile and full of a lot of change. It's probably been even more than I could have expected.
With that in mind, you enter to a degree with your eyes open, right? And so it's pointless to start complaining about the system because you wouldn't have got into it. You have an idea of what the system is about. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you can't advocate for change and improvement.
Yeah.
What are you looking at from your perspective that could accomplish those things?
Well, I think you got to do both at the same time. You got to adapt and try to position yourself. If you virtue signal and say this is a broken system and we're not going to participate in it, we're probably all going to be out of job because we're going to be losing. Our coaches aren't going to be okay with that. Our fans aren't going to be with that. So you've got to be willing to adapt and adjust into the moment while also acknowledging like this is, the cliche word which has been worn out, but I'll say it is unsustainable. This does not continue to work. And, from my perspective, I kind of bring a unique experience in the standpoint that I watched our Baylor football season this past fall as a fan, a season ticket holder, taking my kids to the game as a fan. And most athletic administrators, they work their way up. They may be an AD somewhere else. They may be a deputy, and then they move into the seat. And I went from completely out of the industry and a fan into the seat. And so I think I brought a unique perspective. I got hit up for NIL as a fan last year, so I know what that's like to be in that spot. And that's kind of my mantra. Is just like we've got to reprioritize the fan, and the whole belief of just they'll continue to put up with whatever we throw their way. I think we need to be very cautious. At some point, we're going to break the system, and I just want us to be mindful of that. And I think the changes that are being discussed, the congressional bill. It's certainly progress. It's not perfection, but I know our school and our conference supports it because it's better than the alternative, which is right now a pretty chaotic, anarchy state.
Sure. Well, you bring up a really good point there because, I've got a buddy of mine who's a business owner, and he's like, all right, I've got the athletic department hitting me up. I've got collectives hitting me up. I've had the business school hitting me up. I've got the media rights hitting me up. And donor fatigue is real. Yeah. How do you combat that as an athletic director?
And what we forget on the university side is a lot of times those arms aren't connected really well, and we're not communicating with each other. I mean, and it's because some of that stuff's in-house, some of it's out external, and the consumer doesn't care. They see it as one brand.
Yeah.
So if you don't have your act together and you're getting hit by 10 different directions, it's extremely frustrating. And this whole mindset, I use the analogy, it's pass the plate. This idea of, we're going to continue to just pass around the plate and fund the team. And it's almost a shame game where if you don't if you don't support from an NIL standpoint as a fan base, even if you don't do it individually, the fan base is to be shamed for not stepping up and supporting the team. And, the analogy I would make, it's like you think about we're here, at the Cowboys, facility, and think about if Jerry Jones were to go out and say, hey, I'm thinking about going to get a free agent. But to get that free agent, I'm going to crowdfund them with donations from our fan base. You might already be a season ticket holder, but I'm going to need each of you to give $500 more so I can get this particular player. I mean, on a microcosm, like that's similar to what we're doing. And I just would say that part is, whether we want it or not, it's going to stop. People are going to say, and oftentimes people that have the wealth and the ability to give, they get that way because they're very smart, and they're very, I would say, passionate about ensuring that there's return on their respective investment. And if you don't get that, you don't continue to do it. And so this isn't a Baylor problem. This is an industry problem where this environment, no matter, you're only going to have one school at the end of the year in each sport that achieves ultimate success. Does that mean everyone else that contributed to every other school from an NIL standpoint failed? And that's the environment where we've created, and there's just going to, market conditions are not going to allow that to continue to happen.
What are your expectations for your football team this year?
We ultimately need to have momentum, and I would just say there's a general vibe around the program that we lost at the end of this past year, and we've got to flip that. And everybody wants to know what's success, what's that win metric to be able to determine what success looks like and was not. I always reference I was with athletics when we hired Matt Rule. In his first year, we went 1-11. And I never had as much optimism and encouragement about the future of our program at that point than we were literally 1-11. Sure enough, next year we went 6-6. The year after that, we won the Big 12 title. And you could feel the energy and the momentum associated with it. In the current era of NIL, your program has to feel investable. You've got to be able to garner outside support to drive the resources necessary to continue to acquire talent. And our program needs to be investable. It needs to merit outside support so that coach can go get the players in the portal that can continue to help us get where we need to be. And honestly, this past year was tough. It was a hard product to sell this past season, and that's something I'd say moving forward has to feel different coming off this 26 campaign.
Yeah, the one thing that frustrates me, you talk about, what's sustainable, what isn't, and what can be improved. It just seemed like, from my perspective, that whatever the Big 12 wants to do, it may be viewed as not in the best interest of the SEC, so it's not going to go anywhere. So I just have a problem with that we've anointed these people kings, and they ultimately are going to get the final say. And the reality is they're going to worry about their backyard. And so you can come up with these great ideas, which I think some of them are good, and you talk about the congressional stuff and the playoff expansion and whatnot, and we can go down the list. But unless this group over here says yes, then we're all wasting our time.
Well, I really respected the Michigan president, I think a couple days ago, just came right out and said it. They just point blank said, hey, we've built an advantage and we're not interested in giving it up. And I appreciated the honesty and candor associated.
Yeah.
At least you show where your motives are,
which
and it's not something I'd say that most people wouldn't say if they were in the same position.
Right.
The challenge is, though, I think we can look at the pro model, okay, and we can look at the NFL, which is the strongest league, professional sports league in the world. And the reason it's been that way is because they've balanced the revenue distribution in an equitable way. So the Seattle Seahawks could be one of the worst teams in the NFL a couple years ago, and they win the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. Small market Buffalo, one of the smallest market teams in the NFL, can be successful and challenge for a Super Bowl. The Dallas Cowboys, we sit in their facility, hadn't found the most success despite the resources that they have at their disposal. And they've created the strongest league as compared to Major League Baseball, which has unlimited, basically, salary caps. And you've got teams that start the season with 6x the resources that another team would have. The A's versus the Dodgers or the Yankees, as an example. And that league's staring at a long labor stoppage and has struggled, and it's been a challenge. So what model do we want to follow, and where do we want to be? Because right now we're Major League Baseball, aspiring to be Major League Baseball. At least Major League Baseball has some form of a luxury tax. We don't even have that. Yeah. And so I think we have to think beyond our own respective interests. That starts with all of us, even the Big 12 schools. We need to think about the bigger picture and not just be self-interest focused. But if we don't think on the bigger picture long term, we're going to, I think, cross a breaking point.
I agree, Doug. But then the SEC threatens to shut you out, and they'll just do their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's still the mass and scale needed for volume is still there. I mean, Jamie Pollard has been pretty outspoken about his candid thoughts as it relates to that. Imagine a NCAA basketball tournament that consists of two conferences, and
suck.
What a travesty that would be, right? And so. There's value in strength of the larger ecosystem. Same thing can be true though as we look down. We look up and we say, look at the advantage these guys have. I mean, the group of 6 conference, group of 5 conference are saying the same thing about us. Mm-hmm. Look at them; they don't want to give up their advantage there. And I don't know what that final model looks like, but I can tell you, current trajectory is not a good outcome. Like, we can all agree to that. Even the SEC and the Big Ten schools will say to you, hey, this isn't going to work long term. Now, we may disagree on the path to figure it out, but current model is not a good outcome for any of us.
I look at your perspective. If I were in your shoes as a guy that was tied to a program, coming in as an athletic director last year, sitting as a fan in that stadium, I don't think I could be overly professional. I would micromanage the heck out of it because I'm a fan, and I'm like, okay, I want to sit in. I'm on a Phil Knight. I want a headset. I want to know the plays that are being called. How hard is that to separate the fan, Doug, from the AD fan or the AD.
Yeah,
Doug.
I mean, the first few basketball games were really hard because I started to realize like every facial reaction. I'm wanting to yell at the referees and realize that's not loud anymore. That was definitely a challenge, but I really believe it's kind of like a CEO mentality, which is your job is to go out and hire the very, very best coaches you possibly can find, and then go give them the resources to be successful. And the best coaches are CEOs that run their program. And the best coaches, at the end of the season, there can be discussions as far as style of play and, the technical aspect of that. But during the season, I don't think there's an AD that's speaking in, to X's and O's during the season in a consistent way that probably is the healthiest of manners. And so, I'm probably pretty clear about where I stand in that regard. And right now, Coach Aranda is our coach, and I want to do whatever I can to make sure he's successful. That does not mean that I'm in the room drawing up plays or providing commentary. Nobody knows and is pressuring themselves harder than him. He doesn't need me. He doesn't need me to tell him if there's a bad play. He knows that before I've had the chance to do so. The time to provide that type of feedback would be at the end of the season. But I think I'm pretty guarded. I mean, will tell you road games for me are probably a little bit more enjoyable when I'm not traveling because I'll just go in a room and tell the wife and kids and the dog to stay out so that I can, release emotions as need be. But I'm measuring myself pretty good now on the home site.
You mentioned the legislation. Are you optimistic at all that it will come out of committee and then get voted on and passed?
We got some good people working on it, and I really want to give the credit to all the folks who have played a key part of it. And there's some great Baylor people who have been involved. I'm optimistic. It's been a lot of ups and downs. It's still not a sure bet. I don't know enough about politics to understand how to handicap what the likelihood of that is, but I am encouraged that it's got a strong possibility. And I think that, there's a lot of hard work being done. It's bipartisan, which I think is a testament. This is not a one-sided conversation. And so I'm optimistic and hopeful.
Everybody cares about college sports, right?
You would think so. Yeah.
How about if they start with reform on basketball, because it doesn't seem as threatening as football, and then make some changes there where there's something about the sport rather than the conference. What is good for the sport then will trickle down and be good for the conferences. I'm wondering if that is an angle to approach rather than this big 900-pound gorilla that everybody wants to eat the most out of.
It would be an interesting conversation. What I would tell you is this feels football heavy.
Yeah, I know.
The focus is on football. In fact, I think there's some unintended consequences associated with basketball that haven't been really fully understood. And what I mean by that is if you go back to what the original number was, the schools that don't have football, specifically Big East, Gonzaga, it's going to be a real interesting situation to watch how their advantage, rises up against, Power 4 schools. And when you look at blue bloods in college basketball, I don't think they're going to sit idle and be content with St. John's and Villanova, being able to spend 4 or 5x what they can do.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting if you could, because the governance is all, across all sports. I don't know if you'll ever be able to isolate one sport, but if you could and really say, okay, let's use this as a test case, and hopefully we can show the success. But definitely this bill, as it's written right now and it's focused, is football focused in its orientation, and I think basketball carries a secondary seat in the equation to it, and so we'll see how that plays out.
I was talking to an athletic director of a group of 5 school, and he mentioned, and we don't need to I'm not asking you to get in the weeds on the Sorsby situation, but he said if there's something that can come out of that, that was the one thing that kind of unified everybody, and you never let a crisis go to waste, essentially, that there was a certain level of unification that came from that realized, okay, this thing's really getting off the rails. Is there any kind of momentum from that based on the unity that came from that? It
felt like there was. I kind of reference sometimes you got to hit rock bottom before true change can occur. Yeah. It's like that whole adage of the change occurs when the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change. And it felt like that might have been a moment where everyone can unify and say, okay, we can set aside our differences. We all understand this is critical, and this has further illustrated it. Is that enough momentum to carry us across the line? I don't know. It felt like it was a hotter moment. Now it's dissipated to some degree. But hopefully all the different things we've been through, collectively as an industry is a reminder, and everyone speaking in is, even the schools that oppose it, I would just say, they can't oppose it in favor of status quo.
Yeah.
If they oppose it, they need to have an alternative in play to justify what's better, but there's no way they're saying status quo is better.
Well, Doug, thank you very much for giving us a few moments. Very enlightening. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Hey, my wife is going to text me, and if everybody wants to go to Baylor to schedule games because their wives actually want to go on the trip.
For sure.
You spent some time with Chip and JoJo.
I did.
You know all the details on Shiplat and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, and you know what? Utah was our highest indexing state of customers in the country, both online and visitors.
I don't doubt that one.
We had when BYU played there a few years ago, Casey Stauffer and Brian had I think a very successful donor trip of folks that wanted to come down and visit. And so, we love Utah, Magnolia, great connection with the state, and so thankful for the friendship with Chip and Joe. Huge Baylor athletics fans are very supportive of us. So I just say, come for the game and stay for the food at Magnolia Table.
There you go. Appreciate it.
Yes,
I
sir.
love you how you had to slide that in, right?
I'm used to it now.
Oh, I bet.
I figured, Utah Station. I figured we'd start with that. I was a little surprised that you kind of buried the lead there.
I
guys.
know we had to get it. We
could have spent a lot of time on that one.
Scotty's been doing radio a long time. He knows how to service the audience. You got to get it in there.
Got to sneak it in.
Doug, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Doug McNamee, the athletic director of Baylor. We'll have more next from Big 12 Media Days, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.